How are we doing tonight? There we go. So, happy COVID Wednesday, I guess it is. Fortunately, we've been able to keep working at Home Depot. Been putting in a lot of hours, usually averaging about 60 hours a week or so. But I'm glad to be working. Glad the way that Home Depot has taken care of us. But I haven't tied a fly in a while because I've been at work a lot. So I've tied this fly, some version of it, several times, but it's a pretty easy one to throw up a video of, and thought that I'd do that. So I'm going to tie just a plain black woolly booger and talk through the parts a little bit. But anyway, if you're watching, thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a good go of it with the COVID stuff. So anyway, I'll turn this around and we'll get started. Of course, it changed my viewpoint there. Zoom back in. There we go. Okay, so haven't done this a while where I talk about the things that I am using to tie with. So this hook here, so I used to start off with fly tying with these basic hooks, these bait holder hooks from Eagle Claw, and a lot of my first videos were using those. And then I started looking around for other hooks to use that were of the same kind of caliber. I believe these are also Eagle Claws. I found these guys. These are also bait holder hooks, but the head is turned down on them, if you can see from some of those. A little bit different shape. They do the same job, but the head is not flat, it's turned down, which has a different look for flies. And then I went looking again, and I noticed that these, which look like the same container as the first one, actually have straight hooks. And these hooks, the bait holders have barbs on the top, but these hooks don't. They have a smooth shaft on them, smooth shank. So got, get all those at Walmart or closest sporting goods. Parts that I'm using are black Marabou. It's the very fluffy stuff. You'll see feathers like this on decorations a lot. You'll see them on like feather boas. They're the real fluffy things that float around a lot. That'll be the tail. I've got this guy here. These are just, I don't even know what part of the bird this is from. But these black feathers, real basic feathers. And a lot of the feathers that I have, there's been some packs that I bought separately that were individual packs of feathers, but a lot of the feathers that I tie with still are from the first packs that I bought of as a fly tying mix of little different pieces of feathers. I'll have a little bit of flash on the tail, probably just one line down the side, and then this is one of my favorites. So when you get a ceiling fan, you have a red and a blue extra long wire for, they make them real long so you can, I think, attach them and then be able to work on the thing without having too short of a piece, and then you just tuck it up into the cover when you hang the thing up. But if you go up in little sections and you strip back an inch or so at a time and slide it off, you end up with a wire that's all stripped out. So I got these long pieces, so that's going to be my wire for the body. So I'll just take one strand of this and just going to break it off, or I'll cut it off if it won't break. One of my goals is, I've got some Christmas tree lights, or some Christmas lights, the green strand with the white lights. They went out, and so I took the the wire. I cut off all the lights and I saved all the wire. And I've got this particular strand had one long strand that was not disconnected. And so my goal is to take that and strip it all down and have just wire. Anyway, I don't want to linger too much further. And then my thread is this this thread that I got. It doesn't have a sizing on it or anything, the thickness or anything. I got it on Amazon in a big value pack. And it's definitely value pack thread. It's pretty fluffy, pretty easy to snag, as you can see. It doesn't hold together very well versus thread like this one. That's really well made. But the goal was to get a bunch of thread inexpensively and have it be multiple colors. And I got probably 15 colors in that pack for probably the price of like 2 regular rolls of thread. So, but I'll go ahead and get started on this. So go ahead and start as you always do with you're tying your fly, or most of the time, and that is by covering the shaft of the hook with thread. And this gives something for your stuff that you tie on, your materials to bind to, instead of just the slick shaft. So I'll take this all the way back to the bend of the hook and also to the barb on the hook. That brings to mind also, it's kind of a thing with fly tyers, fly fishermen, to not use the barb on the hook. In fact, some people just buy hooks that don't have a barb, and I believe in some places it is the regulation that the hook that you use is barbless. So I just take the hook and put it in the vise sideways so that I can crush the barb down. You could also do it with, whatever pliers you have in your gear, or if you keep pliers at your tying desk or table or whatever you use. I think I've actually got my fishing pliers, yeah. I've got my small fishing pliers here that I could use also. They come in handy. Okay. Oh, another piece that I have is this little bit of black yarn. That'll be the body. So I'll go ahead and tie in the tail. And I'm going to want this black tail to be about the length of the body. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take this and put a couple of turns on it. I'm going to do that again so you can see kind of how I do that. You don't want this to roll over on the body. You want it to stay on top and go straight out the back. So what you do, I've got, it's this a little bit thinner than the shape of a pencil. But you just hold it on top. And you bring this up so that it's also between your thumb and your forefinger. And then when you bring it down here, then you can pull it down straight between your finger and your thumb, and it pulls it down on top. Make a couple of turns on that, and that holds it for me. And then I can take this and I can pull it forward. That might have been too tight. Maybe I'll just do one turn. And then I'll pull it forward. I might leave it a little bit long, but right about there is good. There. Sorry if that's like really flashy against the camera, but I want to get it closer. People can see. So I'm just going to take this down a few turns. This will help me build up the body some, so I don't have a real super thin body. I might even take it back again. That'll just give me some more bulk. And I'm usually one that ties in bead chain eyes. I might decide to do that in a minute. I might not. We'll see. I might change it up on you. I just think bead chain eyes add so much to a fly. Okay. At this point, let's see. Get a couple more turns. I'll go down this one more time just to tighten that up some more. So it's not spinning on me so much. There we go. It's better. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and use this is a, I'm going to call this like crystal flash. I'm just going to take this and go, what you do is you wrap it, you fold it over the thread, and you just drag it up into place where you want it. There. And then I'm going to get a couple of turns. I'm just going to pull this down on the sides and hold it along where I want it. This thread is actually not terrible. If you think about it, a lot of fishing materials are cheap because what do? You throw it in the water and you hope a fish eats it. So trim that off just short of the end of the tail, right there. So anyway, the materials are cheap because you're just going to throw it in the water and have a fish eat it. So why buy super expensive materials? I mean, if you're making flies to sell them, then you might want to make them look nicer. But I find that these materials work just fine for what I do. So this is the yarn, and if you're trying not to be too bulky, you can pull off some of the fuzz and just tie onto the thread. But I'm not worried about the bulk. In fact, I'm trying to build up some bulk. So I'm just going to go there and tie that in and tie it up the body. Like that. Add some glitter. I just did right there. Hi, Jeremy. That's my cousin. Congratulations on your new position at your job, or new job. I don't remember which one it was. But that's awesome. Glad for you, cousin. So then I've got my wire. I'm going to tie the wire in. So you want to tie your materials all, because you want the thread to start here and work its way forward, and then you tie off the materials. So just tie the pieces in that you're going to bring forward from the start. And Jeremy, I'm also sad you had to shave your monstrous beard. I'm down to a goatee because I'm tired of wearing a mask and a beard at the same time. So I just went down to the goatee. That was recently. It's one thing to wear your mask when you just go in, to shop for an hour or so, but when you have to work in it for 14 hours straight, it's pretty rough. All right, then the feather. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to pick a longish one. Me too. That's funny. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to strip down one side. Just pulling the barbs off of one side of this feather all the way down. And when I tie this in, I'm going to tie it in the small side to the back so that as it wraps forward, it gets bigger. And I'll just bend these barbs up so they stand out. This is not an ideal feather. It's kind of soft, but I don't have any black hackle that would be good for this, so I'm just going to wrap that forward a little bit. this point, this is where I would tie in my bead chain eyes. And I think I'm going to hold off on that for now. We'll see. I might decide to do it after. So I'm going to start with the thread, the yarn, that is. And I'm just going to roll this forward. All you do is just wrap it forward with it touching on each wrap. So you get a nice caterpillar-like body. Fuzzy thing going on. And just kind of watch your thickness there to make sure, see if you need to double back on it. This is where it's going to change a little bit because of it's actually a good taper. I was going to say it's where it's going to change because of the, where I wrapped the feather in. I folded it back, but it left a little notch there. But that's cool. So I'll do that, fold it back for a couple of turns. And then trim this off. Get as close to the hook as you can without cutting the thread, because that sucks when you cut the thread. It's easy to fix, it just sucks. And then I'm going to take I've got some hackle pliers here. I'm going to grab this with. It's got a nice loop so you can put your finger in there. And then I'm just going to wrap this forward. And I'm going to have it kind of open turns. This is the part that's kind of difficult with this feather because it's not very long. I have to watch my turns to make sure I get to the front. I do kind of like how fluffy it gets at the front though. It's pretty neat. But I think I'm going to add something to this. I'm going to go ahead and bring my wire forward though. So I'm going to wrap this the opposite way. And then as I go, I'm going to go back and forth so that I make it between the barbs of the feathers and don't hold them down. And going the opposite direction allows me to cross the shaft of that feather, so that if the fish bites it and it breaks the shaft, it doesn't come unwound and come apart on me. If I did this without using the polymer hackle wrapped forward like that, this would act as more of a flash on the fly, but because of how bulky this stuff all is, it's still getting a little bit of flash in there, but it's not really acting that part right now. Okay. And then you just take this and just helicopter it. It breaks off. That way you don't have to dull your scissors. Although I already dulled my scissors trying to cut the thing off. Of the wire that it came from. So I'm going to go back in here a little bit. Notice that when I got to the end of that feather, it's showing some of the white of the shaft of the feather there. So I'm going to take another one of those feathers. I'll strip some more down. But I'm just going to tie it in, this time with both sides there. I'm not stripping it, I just stripped off a little bit on the end. I'll go here. A couple of turns to hold it. Snip this extra off. And I'm just going to wrap this You know what? I don't like the way that's laying down. So I'm going to go back on what I just said. I'm going to take this and strip down the side of it. Usually these feathers, when you do that, they'll stand up even if you have both parts, but I'm just going to go here. Now, if that ain't a woolly booger, I don't know what is. Because that is those feathers turn out super woolly. I'm just going to get some good turns here. Build up this head some. Put a half hitch in it. And then grab my whip finisher. Put a few turns in it. Snip that. And then always finish the head with some what they call varnish. This is just nail polish. There is varnish that's out there that's specifically for fly tying, but I ain't got time for all that. So I'm just going to hit this with some clear nail polish, which works perfectly fine. All these other materials on here will come off and come apart and break off before this nail polish ever is affected by anything. And often the materials will give out and I'll be able to reuse hooks. I should just sharpen them or whatever, but I'll get done using a hook because it's tore up. But I'll have to go in and cut off the thread, and I'll have to start with that with like an X-Acto, like a chisel blade on it like that. Jeremy, this is kind of a go-to. You can kind of fish for anything with this, just because it imitates so many different things. But generally, well, if I was in Texas, I'd be fishing for either bass or perch. You can use it for trout too, but this kind of fish is good, or this kind of fly is good for bass, because when you throw it in there, especially if you add the bead chain eyes on the front, or if you add weight underneath the yarn so that it sinks real well, when you play it with the line, it'll swim real nice. The Marabou really undulates in the water, so it's really good for any freshwater fish. This didn't turn out kind of the way I like it. Like I said, this is a pretty woolly booger. In the water, that'll be fine, but I don't like how I have this little section missing here. It's kind of gross. But I just wanted to tie a fly. And that's the beauty of this, is that you do hundreds of them, and then you just throw them out there and see what they eat. And sometimes the ugly ones are the ones that catch the fish, and sometimes nothing catches a fish. So, anyway. But yeah, that's what that's for. So, hope you enjoyed watching. Hope I get to make it back to Texas sometime soon and go fishing at the camp, or in San Marcos, or somewhere fun, and maybe we can all get together. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe out there. Hope we get back to work soon. Well, hope y'all get back to work soon. We've been working our butts off. Good night.